This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission. All rights reserved. Yes, hello everyone. Sorry we are late. We seem to be minus a Longshanks.
Sorry we're late. We have a note.
we seem to have no Longshanks. We waited around a bit, and then what I have to do is start up another computer and upload and go onto Discord then and try to get it, and it's just a total utter mess up. But anyway, we are here, and I'm luckily we've got the characters' introductions today, because I can think of how we're going to go forward tonight. So yeah, but hopefully Longshanks will pop in, and then I can disconnect mine and we can go ahead. So let's do the introductions first, and just for sake of a different orientation, let's do Longshanks' first. And my name's Longshanks EPG. I play Hengist, the tank of the group, who is...
No, you gotta go, Hengist!
And I use my sword and my shield, and sometimes I tank. Not all the time, because I forget to ward location.
You swine! You swine!
He's not here. Nobody can tell him.
Yeah, but remember, there's a rerun.
Oh no!
That's nasty. And to think I stood up for you.
I don't know.
Was that my applause?
The first he calls, the first thing he calls me is fat on my own stream. Then he makes fun of Longshanks EPG. I think you're just going to get dead. Hi Tom, how you doing?
He thinks buying merchandise is going to save it.
Yeah.
I know. Let me just buy some more. One sec.
Do you think the same as well, Chuggerwugger? Because I can see you got your shirt on as well. I've got the Halloween version tonight. Ooh.
Oh, that's last year, so isn't it?
Yeah, you've got a hat. You should have. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I thought you had a pumpkin hat.
No, that's just his head.
What?
I'm sure you had a pumpkin hat.
Can you get on with the introduction?
Oh yes.
Please?
Anyway, so Hengist is not here, so I'll pass over to Chuggerwugger. Go.
Was that? Oh, right. Hello, I'm Chuggerwugger. The character I play is Gulliver, no second name because he is an orphan. Not originally from Odis continent. He came across on the boat with Hengist and a few more others, all of which have now disappeared, really. Bless their little cotton socks. Gulliver is the youngest member of the party. He's a bit scrawny, ginger haired, freckled complexion. He's a sorcerer, well, an apprentice sorcerer in the Order of the Kraken, which is one of the 4 sorcery orders on Odis. His particular order is that of the blue one, and it specializes in spells involving around communication, transportation, teleportation. He has the ability to shape his spells, something that is unique to the sorcerer class. Through shaping, he can change various aspects. He can change the range, the magnitude or the intensity, the power of the spell. He can also affect the number of targets that it will affect. He can even combine several spells into a single casting. He also has some lesser spells. He refers to them as his cantrips. They're actually based on the folk magic school in Mythras. So yes, that's Gulliver. He doesn't do much. Doesn't do much combat, to be honest with you. He's more of a thinker rather than a fighter. And I shall pass on to Mr. Pickles, because he's there, sat there with his mic unmuted, ready to go, without a stupid hat on.
Well, I guess, thank you. I don't wear hats.
You can always count on a pickle.
I'm waiting for Medivac to attack me a little bit. I'm excited for that. But anyways, I'm Mr. Pickles. I play Bartleby Fumus, our team's theist. He performs miracles and minor prayers under the light moon goddess Amriel. He's able to do a lot of things that revolve around energy, healing, purity, cleaning, and overall protecting things. He can repair minor things. He can create a shield to protect friends from being attacked. It's either controlled by himself or by the person if he imprints it onto a shield. Bartleby is also our team's expert on monsters. He has an affinity for goblins, though he hasn't heard any good tales lately of goblins. That's a bit of a bummer for him. He's different from a sorcerer in the sense that he can't change any of his miracles or spells, but he does have a separate pool. It's called his devotion pool, where he can draw additional points to power his miracles. So in a sense, theists have a few more points of magic overall. That is about it. Other than Bartleby's main recreation is helping out in the poorer parts of town.
Yeah.
Damn. On over to you.
That's one way of putting it.
Right, sorry, I'm Medivac, and I have nothing bad to say about our red-headed friend, Mr. Pickles, who will burst into fire if you go to sunlight. No, are you redhead? You don't ginger to me. No.
I didn't think I did.
Oh, sorry, my camera. Crap.
It's okay. I'll be ginger for you, I guess.
Thank you. I play Hazra Khan. He's a nomad. He's the group scout tracker hunter. He likes to use his short spear, and my wife is yawning, and he likes a scimitar. He's very agile. He's joined the Brotherhood, who is at the moment, always have been collating and collecting details about how things affect the areas of nature where men, creatures, and whatnot travel through or settle in, and how that effect is changing things. And they are more concerned about the balance of things. He has a black arm because in his first journey with this group, he picked up something that he thought he was trying to save from one of the enemies getting, and everything he was trying to keep for himself. It wasn't really. He was trying to keep it away from the bad guy. He picked it up and it scorched his arm all black. So at the moment as well, he's also trying to find a cure for that because he looks a little bit odd with one white arm, one black arm. He is also a champion of lump hefting, as somebody reminded me tonight. He can chuck a pig like
roll a pig. Roll a pig.
Roll a pig, that's it. Roll a pig like
it wasn't chucking, it was rolling.
Pig roller. Yes, and with that I shall pass on to Inwils, who's not bad. But he was trying to take a drink out of that really big thick chocolate drink.
Yes. So what's the game? Is it a PC one? No, it's a fantasy role-playing game, Stacey. So the rules are all in my head, and I just make it up as I go along. So the adventure last time, 2 weeks ago, you actually started a new adventure, I think, and Mr. Bartleby was accosted by a rather shabby, dirty old lady who was very much of need of assistance. Her daughter had been butchered quite nastily in an alleyway, and Bartleby agreed to help and rallied the troops together in order to sort of like bring them to find out what has happened, because the city guards are not interested about anything that happens in the slums. So the party led by Bartleby went down into the slums and located the alleyway where the nasty deed had been done. I think you found out, and correct me if I'm wrong at this point, I think you talked to a man who, like an old slum, and who said that the alleyway was his domain, his house, and I think you talked to him. There was also some interaction with some people in the nearby house. Was that right?
Yeah, so basically what happened was that Hazra and Gulliver went down into the alleyway.
That's it, yes.
There was the drunk there who actually said that it was his home. I think Bartleby and Hengist, whilst they were with, was it Marigold?
That's right, yes.
Were talking, and then the blacksmith came out of the house, which
That's right.
Overlooked the thing. I didn't think that. Unfortunately, Hengist spoke to him, and that's all right.
He ran away.
Yeah, because.
Oh yes, I remember now.
Stature.
Yeah.
So he basically dragged Marigold into the house and told her to stop talking to these. They then came down into the alleyway, and we communicated with the drunk. And after a few silver changed hands, we got him talking about what he saw.
That's
he
right.
Heard screams.
Yeah.
And when he went down, he said that he had seen somebody climbing over the wall at the far end.
Yeah.
And he said that the only person that it could be was Sewer Jack.
Yeah.
And yes, and that's where we.
Green, yellow
and
eyes.
I remember now. And Hengist found something, I think, in the alleyway.
There was a necklace, a crudely made necklace that looks like it was almost like, and I kind of pictured it as a nail, but just sort of like bent into like a heart.
Yeah, got you.
Is it a heart?
Yes.
Yeah. But we didn't find out where that was from. There was nothing else really that gave us any clue.
No.
It then go back to the hairy hobgoblin, and over our evening meal, I had asked Basil Earless about the story of Sewer Jack, and it came across that it was almost like an old wives' tale.
Yeah.
That was just told.
A child's story, a story that was told to children to stop them misbehaving, or Sewer Jack. Yeah, like the bogeyman, or the Sewer Jack will grab you or something like that. And and I remember, I think Basil Earless came over and said, "You don't believe in such things, ha ha ha." And then I think at the end, if I'm correct,
I'm not sure I understand.
Shut up.
What don't you understand?
It's Siri. It was Siri. Siri was saying,
"Talk to Alexa."
So
talk to my hand.
I think you all went home to your various abodes, and Hengist went back, and when he got back to his place, there was a young lady came knocking on his door, asking for assistance because she had just moved in. I just remembered one of my favourite parts from the last adventure was when Marigold, who's the old woman, when Bartleby kept asking for the daughter's name. So what was your name? Daughter's name's Rose. Sorry, what was her name?
By Paul Rose.
That's why I was confused. I thought it was a pet name, and I wanted the real.
So Rose is the dead one. That was my favourite bit.
With people, though, has it?
No.
Well, some people. Okay, then. So, obviously, we were going to start this session starting from that point. But obviously, we cannot because of Longshanks EPG's not here. So
I was hoping not to have to do anything till half hour.
just sort of like sit around.
I'm playing another game.
So what I'm going to do is in my head I've played that out. Hengist is now dead. And what I'm going to say to you is that the next morning you all go home to your bed. Bartleby, you sleep in a church. Gulliver, you sleep in your orders boards and lodgings. Hazra, you have your cabin out, and you sort of like come back into the town early next morning, and you've been approached by what you recognise as somebody who's obviously some kind of a servant, a footman, and he introduces himself as Hengist's manservant, his footman, his butler. And he sort of like comes round to each of you in turn, and you know, Hazra, when he gets out to you, he's obviously hasn't come out by horse or carriage or anything. He's sort of like walked, and he's quite finely dressed, and you notice that all these sort of like the bottoms of his trousers are all sort of like muddy and damp. And he comes into the church. Well, he doesn't actually come into the church, Bartleby. He leaves message for you to come to the door. He seems somewhat quite reluctant to enter the holy, your holy church. And Gulliver, in a similar way, you don't actually see him as such. He shoves something underneath the door, a note that is brought to you, and it's only once you've read it and looked out the window do you see him sort of like going off. And the note or the message all says the same thing, that Hengist has called you to go out onto the hill where he lives to meet up because he's got some important news to tell you. Is there anything that you would like to do, any three of you individually, before you head up to Hengist's house?
No, if it's important news from Hengist, then
it must be important indeed.
Definitely. So, yep, Hazra is exactly the same. He will grab his spear, his scimitar, and he will go with his usual travel pack.
Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary for Bartleby.
Okay, so you head up to his abode, which, if you remember, I'll just move you on to the map here. It is up here on the hill in the rich area. As you approach up the road, Bartleby, you look longingly at room number 2 there, because I do believe that is where
one of your many.
I can't remember whether or not it was Bria or...
It was Bria.
Who was the other one?
There's been many.
Ica.
No, it wasn't Ica. Who'd you call
Ica Macduff.
Okay.
That was a fun
Ica.
character. That's how I joined you guys.
Ica's was Hengist's.
Was it? Oh, yes. So, Bria's
Well,
on.
that doesn't still cancel her out, you know.
Yeah.
True.
And you sort of like go up to Hengist's house, which is quite a noble affair, you know, compared to the meagre board and lodgings at the church or in the order, and even your little cottage, Hazra, cabin. This is quite a grand affair, and you sort of like quite happily sort of like knock on the door. Who would be the person who knocks? Who would be taking the lead at this point?
Are
I
they?
would have thought Bartleby, yeah.
I would have thought Bartleby's.
It's got a fancy knock.
Bartleby's type
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. So Bartleby, you sort of like knock at the door, and you, after a while, you hear rather slow, plodding footsteps coming towards the door. Sounds like there's maybe some kind of a marble floor inside, and all of a sudden, it's not one door that opens. It's sort of like both doors open inward together, and stood in the entrance, in the gap, is this manservant that you, Bartleby and Hazra, you've seen before, and you saw the back, Gulliver. And he sort of like, he seems quite uppity. His nose is slightly in the air, and he sort of like says, "Yes?"
We're here to see Hengist.
And at that point, he's sort of like, beforehand, his nose has been in the air and his eyes have been almost like partly shut, as he doesn't. So then he sort of like looks at you all, and he sort of like gives you a quick look over your attire, and he's sort of like looks at your boots, or your shoes, Hazra. They're obviously not the cleanest in the since you've walked in from outside. And he's like says, "Oh, yes, please come into the," and he sort of like has a quick think and says, "hallway, I think, and I will get the master." And he sort of like steps to one side and sort of like gestures you to sort of like go in. There seems to be like an entrance hall, and you can see quite a noble staircase going up onto the second floor, the landing, and there's several doors down either side. And he sort of like, as you come in, he gestures to what can only be be classified as a wooden bench. It's literally just like wooden, and it just seems to be sat there. And he sort of like looks at you and says, "Please do take a seat. I will see whether or not the master is ready to greet you." And he sort of like gestures you in and closes the door behind you. Is
there any funny pictures of Hengist up on the wall? Do you know, sort of like posed, like?
Yeah, there's several sort of him. Now he's obviously had something draped over him, and you figured they've added a bit to his chest.
What, like a shield?
No, not just me.
He's sort of like, his shield's down to one side, and he's sort of like very noble, and you figure his chin's
a bit bigger.
It's definitely more chiseled, and he's looking slightly up, and his chest seems a little bit more muscular, but he's got his enamelled breastplate on, and his shield, as always, at his side on the floor by his leg, doing nothing. And
I don't have that skill.
yes, his other hand on the hilt of the sword, and after a while, you notice that what appears to be a maid comes in, and she's sort of like she's carrying what appears to be a bucket, and she sort of like comes into the hallway almost like in a rush, and then she slows down and almost like creeps towards you both, but more to the door. And you sort of like all sat. Bartleby, this feels even less comfortable than a church pew, if that makes sense. It's not the best thing. And you notice that as you sit there, the maid sort of like gently puts her bucket down and starts to mop up Hazra's footprints that he left on the marble floor. And while she's doing this, you hear the click click of the butler's shoes as he comes down the stairs, and he says, he comes up and he sort of like stands in front of you, doesn't announce himself or anything. He says, currently the master is indisposed. However, he has left instructions for you.
Oh, he's never done that before.
The master is often.
This is the very first, yes.
The master is often indisposed at this early hour.
Oh, well.
The maid goes, and he sort of like scowls at her, and she just carries on mopping.
Is the master entertaining?
I am not at liberty to reveal the activities of the master.
What did he say?
He has left a message for you. I'm afraid I am not completely sure what the message means, or even, well, he assured me that you would, and he sort of like looks at you all, that you would understand.
Well, have it, man. Tell us what it is.
Well, apparently, late last night, I had retired for the night. When the master returned, he was summoned by a lady to a nearby abode where he was asked to, well, apparently the lady was locked out and he had to open a door. However, the master has told me to inform you that not all was as it seemed when he arrived, and the door was not actually the front door, but a secondary door within the house. So, anyway, he returned to his bed rather late in the early mornings, and asked me to summon you here, since he's currently indisposed, and he informed the lady that you would be able to attend the lady's house to help with the issue. He did say once more that the door was not as it seemed. I'm sorry, I'm not completely privy to all the master's knowledge. I am but a footman. I know very little. Yes, anyway.
So, sorry to interrupt, but are you telling me that Master Hengist, your master, is wanting us to be locksmiths?
I am so sorry, sir. I am not fully aware of his intentions or his actions, or even his participations at the present moment in time. I was just asked to deliver the letter. I did ask whether or not he wished to write it down, but apparently he is somewhat incapable of the written language.
Very many thanks for your deliverance of the message.
Did he say whereabouts this door was?
Yes, I can escort you to the premises. I know it, or I can direct you. It is completely up to you. Oh, sorry. He said to send this with you, and he hands over what appears to be a signet ring that has Hengist's emblem on. he said that the lady in question would recognise it.
I'll take the ring.
I am not too sure why. Roll a commerce skill.
That's what I wanted to. That's what I wanted to have a look at anyway. I want to see how much cash he's got. Boom. Start as you mean to go on. That's what I say.
Yeah. So you think it looks extremely precious. It seems to be made out of the actual band seems to be made out of gold. It looks very well worn. It looks like it's been on fingers over generations, maybe passed down. You think it's more of like an heirloom, a signet ring of his family or something like that. And you can see that on the actual ring, on the sort of like where the diamond would go, it's flat, and there's some metal carvings that is identical to Hengist's chest plate. Both that he normally wears and of the picture. Apparently, the lady will know this. I am not too sure why. As I say, I am unable to discuss the master's late night or early morning activities.
That's no problem. Are you ready to go now, or?
I can. He sort of like looks down at the maid who's just finished mopping up the final muddy footprint of us.
Sorry, my lady, but I live, in the forest, and I pick up a few things on the way in. There's maybe a rabbit or a
And she sort of like finishes mopping and sort of like stands up and goes to leave, and the manservant says, "One moment, Penelope, your services will be needed again," as he sort of like gazes down at Hazra's pajama feet, and
yes, I need to be leaving.
And he sort of like says, "If gentlemen, if you'd like to follow me, I'm sure I can take you straight to the abode now."
I'm ready if the rest of you are.
Let us proceed so Penelope can clean up my distress.
Yep. And you sort of like leave Hengist's house, and as the doors close behind you, you almost like hear Penelope go like that, and a slop of water as she starts to sort of like mop up again. And the manservant takes you down the street, left, right, and it comes to what appears to look like quite a gothic house. It looks like it doesn't look like it's newly built at all. It looks like it's been there for some time. You notice it has almost like a wall around the outside that then has a driveway up to the main house, and as you sort of like, there's no gate there or anything, and as you sort of like go up the short driveway, you notice on either side that the grass has grown. There's weeds in there. There's brambles and thorns. It's not like the well manicured lawn that you would expect of the house. The house sort of like looms slightly on a hill, and it's almost like set back from everybody else's up on the hill, i.e. the hill of the noble hill of Lindo. And there seems to be nothing around it. It looks quite prominent up there. But as you get closer, you notice that not only is the grass and the weeds all round, you notice that the driveway isn't kept to good condition. And then as you get even closer, you notice that it's like a 2-story house, and maybe even attic as well. But you notice that the windows are still, many of them are still boarded up from the outside. planks of wood and timber sort of like stretch over them. And as you walk up, it's not as if it's fresh timber. Hazra, you can see that there's moss on it and lichen on it. It seems to be warped in places. And even as you approach, the general state of this Gothic mansion is in disrepair. There's the odd tile that's come loose off the roof, and there's some of the gargoyle has lost its head in various places, but the structure itself looks quite robust. It doesn't look like it's about to fall down, and it certainly does not look like it's derelict in any way. It looks as if it just has, well, taken it's been there a long time, maybe even since the start of Lindo, maybe well over probably like 100 years, say, just to give you an idea.
But as far as the rest of the buildings around it, it's obviously in a lot disrepair and...
Very much so. I mean, this is the posh area of Lindo. Yeah. This is the upper class area.
It's seen better days.
It most definitely, but you do notice as you arrive that there does seem to be some light in there. You notice that the chimney actually has smoke coming up from it, as if there's a fire warming inside it. It looks as if somebody, in the nicest ways, tried to bring life back to an old derelict or an old and dilapidated building. And the footman the butler takes you up onto the to the front door and sort of like turns to you and says, I will be leaving you here. It is not my place to actually, my entrance is not at the front of the house, if you understand what I mean.
I know, my friend. I am the same. We go around the rear.
And he sort of like looks at you, Gully, and says, and you still have the master's ring?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have it here.
Yes. And he sort of like leans a little bit closer and he says, I don't think it was meant as a present. I think the master will want it back at some time, so try not to lose it.
Oh, I don't lose things. No.
That's good. Okay, if there's nothing else that you need, good sirs, I will take my leave.
Do you know who lives here?
And he sort of like looks at it and he says, I am only aware that it's been empty for decades. I'm not too sure who has moved back in. I could possibly make inquiries, but probably your best option, good sir, is to maybe knock.
Yes. I didn't know whether or not they were just having work done, and it was...
Oh, no. The house has been empty for some time. I was quite surprised to find that the master had actually mentioned it. Anyway, I have probably said too much already. I bid you good day, kind sirs. And he sort of like gives you a curtly nod, turns around and sort of like walks away. And yeah, so you're stood in what appears to be a rather big, in front of this big house. It's got double doors, and it's got one of those knockers on it that seems to be almost like a demon's head, and in its mouth it's holding the ring, and you just sort of like lift it and knock it.
Gulliver's gonna knock.
Yeah, and it's one of these almost like a church door, and it sort of goes ba-dum, ba-dum. Do you know what I mean? It sort of like gives that hearty thud. And there's some time before you hear something inside. Gulliver, you're closest to the door, so just give me a perception check.
While Gulliver's doing that, Hazra will whisper to Gulliver, say, remember, Gulliver, to say you're from the house of Hengist.
And Gulliver, you, as Hazra's saying this to you, you also hear barely somebody shouts, a lady's voice saying, I'll get it. like that, and all of a sudden only one side of the door opens, and there seems to be a quite young-looking lady, definitely a lady in the poshest sense of the word. She's very immaculately dressed. She has beautiful blonde hair and blue eyes, that piercing blue eyes, and she seems to be dressed all in white, and she has a shawl over her shoulders, sort of like draping open over her rather well-proportioned body. She seems very positive and very full of life, and even as you sort of like see her, she has this beaming smile on her face, and then she sort of like opens the door all pleased, and then sees you all three sat there, and sort of goes, "Oh." And she sort of like looks round the door. She says, "Are you somewhat alone?"
Gulliver just sort of like is staring at her.
Mr. Bartleby, this one is yours, I think.
I am
You
his.
could help.
I do not think I am his. She sort of like looks at Bartleby. I am definitely not his, in any mere sense of the word, man.
Believe me, I know my friends can be a little bit too merry sometimes. We're here on behalf of Master Hengist to help solve.
Is he here?
Unfortunately, he is not. He's seeing to matters his
Oh.
own manner. But he sent us in his.
And he felt he could not come by him again alone, by himself. That is somewhat perplexing.
It is. We don't know why he is.
After I thought last night went so well, despite him having a real hard time of it, not being able to move it at all.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. Well, he did mention last night how hard it was.
Take the ring out and.
No!
Oh,
I've got a ring.
yes, that is indeed Master Hengist's ring. You are obviously sent here by him. Yes, last night. Yes, he left quite exhausted. He did try.
I'm sure he did, madam.
Did he mention me? I'm Gulliver.
No. I don't think last night was the moment to talk about any of his extended family.
Oh, I saved his life a few times.
I am sure that
There was once when.
I'm sure that one day he will indulge his stories of you, Gully. I'm sure.
Gulliver. Gully.
Cully, yes. Right. Would you like to see what he had such a hard time over?
Yes, please.
Yes, I will warn you now. It is quite big.
That has never been a problem, my lady.
Is it a scorpion?
Well, come in. And he left it last night, so I'm sure he won't mind me showing you it this morning.
It's fine.
Maybe it'll look somewhat smaller in the cold light of day.
It's okay.
Who would know?
We have a Bartleby. It's fine.
And she sort of like opens the door. Yes, Bartleby. So.
I was going to say, I'm Bartleby. Sorry, we did not make proper introductions.
Oh.
What was your name?
Oh, my name is Matilda.
Matilda.
Yes.
This is Gulliver, of course, and Hazra.
Hello.
Thank you. Yes, welcome, Hazra and Cully. It's lovely to have you here today. And Master Bartleby, a person of the cloth, I see.
Indeed, I serve the goddess Amriel.
Right.
Hopefully, we can solve this problem.
Well,
would you care to lead?
I hope we can solve it as well, because it made Master Hengist quite perplexed last night. He was having a hard time. And, well, shall I show you what it was all over?
Yes.
Yes, he did leave a mark on it, but that was somewhat it. And she sort of like ushers you in, and you go into quite an extensive hallway, atrium, marble floors. But you notice as you look around that there's seems to be packing cases and boxes, and there seems to be dust sheets all over, sort of like different pictures and things like that. It doesn't look like she's sort of like, it looks like she's just moved in and is still in the process of moving in. And she says, yes, yes, I have to admit one thing before we go any further.
What is that?
I actually got Master Hengist here on false pretenses last night.
How so?
Well, I told him that I couldn't get into my house, which was somewhat of a lie.
I see.
Yes.
Why could you not get into your house?
Well, I could get into my house. It's just that I have moved back to Lindo into these premises. And, well, yes, there is a door that I am having somewhat of an issue with.
I'm really good with doors.
Well, that's what Master Hengist said. But a bit too much bravado, I think. Anyway, do you follow me? And you sort of like start to walk through the house, and there seems to be maids running here, then, everywhere, and sort of like footmen and people going left, right, and centre. And there's a gentleman, sort of like butler, walking past that seems to have a tray with various sort of like bread and cold meat and some kind of pitcher, as in
cheese.
Yeah, and it looks like and quite a nice platter. And as Matilda sort of like walks by, he sort of like stops and bows, and she sort of like, "Oh yes, Raikkonen liked that a lot. Yes, do make sure that he eats it all, please. You know what he's like at his elderly age." And the butler goes, "Yes, my lady," and sort of like sounding a little bit like Parker from Thunderbirds, and goes trotting off. Anyway, the woman sort of like takes you what appears to be in the kitchen, and sort of like and as she goes into the kitchen, there seems to be quite a lot of activity there, a lot of cleaning rather than cooking. There's quite a multitude of servants, and obviously a portly lady that's some kind of cook, giving orders left, right, and centre. And as she walks in, everybody sort of like stops and curtsies, and she sort of goes, "Are you all right, my lady?" Oh yes, I am absolutely fine, Gertrude. Please do continue. Oh, if you wish, my lady. Come on, don't just sit there. Get a move on. And she sort of like takes you through, and takes a candle that's in a sort of like a pewter, well, it looks a bit like brass, candle holder, and lights it, and off a burning wick from the fire, and leads you down into what appears to be the wine cellar, the basement. And it's quite extensive down here. There's multitudes of barrels and bottles and dried, what appears to be dried food, and there's that smell of decay and mould, as if it hasn't been touched for a long time. And Matilda sort of like turns to you and says, "Oh, I am so sorry. It is a bit whiffy down here, but you know, it would appear that the premises weren't left as clean as I originally thought. Anyway, this way." And she sort of like leads you down into the cellar, in between all the barrels, etc. And she comes to the back, behind all the barrels and the bottles. And she comes up and stops in front of what seems to be a door. It seems to be a little bit wider than a normal door. just from initially looking at it, it seems to have metal braces, like extended hinges along the top and bottom, and there seems to be some kind of latch. There seems to be no keyhole or anything like that. And she says, well, here's the offending article. I'm very interested what lies beyond. But, and she sort of like presses the lock at the latch and sort of like rattles the door, and it doesn't even shake. And she says, but it seems to be well and truly locked. But as you can see, there is no key. And she sort of like points to an indentation. That's what the Master Hengist managed to do with it last night. I think he might have dislocated something as he rammed into it. Maybe that's why he is absent today. Anyway, he said that he might know some people that could help with the door. And I find myself approached by you three gallant, young, he looks at Bartleby, young men who hopefully can open it for me. I will step back. And she steps back almost like, and then sort of like looks at you and looks at the door.
Has to look at the door and be like, there's no keyhole, no nothing. So he wants to make a perception roll, see what he can see on the door, and he sort of like.
Yeah, well, roll a perception roll, and I'll tell you what you can hear or see. Sorry. Yeah, it looks absolutely like oaken. It's definitely oak. You know that you've seen oak wood. It doesn't look like it's expanded or anything like that. It doesn't look like it's wet. It looks like it's completely dry. You sort of like look at where the door meets the door jamb around the edges. It doesn't. There's a tiny gap there that you would expect. It doesn't look like it's swollen in the doorway and sort of like blocked it in any way at all. You check the latch and it seems to be working absolutely fine. The metal hinges that come out, they're bolted into place. They don't seem to have any sign of rust on them, Hazra. It looks like it's, compared to the rest of the building, this looks quite
pristine. Yeah,
quite new. It's even got that lovely fresh wood smell that you get from when you've been.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes, and but you sort of like it doesn't even move. It's not as if you rattled it would rattle or anything like that. There's absolutely nothing. It doesn't move at all. There's no light coming from underneath it, even though there's a gap there. So it's not right the way to the floor, and it doesn't look like there's any trip wires or anything stopping it, any spikes in it or anything like that.
And there's no keyhole, no switch. Just a handle.
It does. It's literally like a shed hand. So it has a handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Press it down, and it does look like it probably opens into the cellar. Mm-hmm. So it pulls towards you rather than pushing in. But you give it a push and a shove, and it doesn't even move. You can make a brawn roll if you wish.
No, it's fine. If it doesn't move from a single action, then it has to be like. This is very strange. It is not moving.
Oh, let me try, Hazra. Let me try. Stand aside.
Just at that moment, just as you sort of like heard, you hear the cook's voice, and Matilda sort of like says, "Oh, one moment," and she sort of like hands out the candle to anybody who takes it.
Bartleby wants the candle.
Okay, so it's and she says, "I'll be back down in a minute. Good luck." And she sort of like goes upstairs, and you can hear conversations up above. Yes, sorry, Gulliver.
She's very pretty, isn't she?
Oh, I've had better, says Bartleby.
She's one of many.
Yeah, I'll give her a 7.
I'd give her 1.
Well, at least she's got her head.
At least she hasn't been. You know, she's got a slight bruise because she's been dropped by Hengist.
Oh my God.
Stand back, Hazard. I'll open it.
Yes, my friend, because I know you are adept at these things. And
Gulliver's going to cross his fingers, put them on the door, and when he does that, he's gonna say, "Conk."
And Hazard will say, "Kerr."
It's this
And the spell that he's going to cast is going to be that.
Okay then, yeah. I didn't even realise you had that spell actually.
It's one that I took the last time.
Okay then, yeah. Roll your. Is it a folk magic?
Did I? Yes, I did.
Yeah. Is it a folk magic spell?
It is.
Yeah. So roll your folk magic then. Yeah, so you cast your knock spell, and it's sort of like this opens any fastened device, doesn't it? Any mechanical lock. However, you cast it, and you suddenly get a feeling, and you get this feeling that as you cast the knock spell. Normally you're quite used to just feeling the lock or the door unfasten itself, but this time you feel a slight resistance, and it's not a resistance in the lock, it's a slight resistance or a magical resistance. There's something that as you cast the spell you feel it as if it pushes against something, then comes back at you slightly. And it definitely it seems. Roll your invocation skill. You can augment it with your order of the Kraken if you wish.
And can you put the tokens up?
Tokens.
Yeah, so I can click on it to get my org.
Oh yeah, got ya. There you go.
Order of the Kraken, so it's 60%. Might as well use it. 12%. Okay, what am I rolling? My evocation.
Yeah. Which
okay, so
is that 90?
No, I'm on 100 and 120.
Okay, cool.
My invocation's 99, so I'm on 111.
So is your so anybody who's watching, sorry, is your invocation 99?
My invocation is 99.
Yeah, so if the players roll, they roll percentile dice, and if their skill is below 100, then they fumble on a 99 or 100. If they actually get their skill above 100, because it can still adjust for difficulty and things like that, it ceases to become 99 and 100. It just becomes 100. But because your skill is 99, it means that you fumble.
Even if it's above, because I've augmented it with my...
Yeah, no, it's exactly... So a 99 or 100 is always a fumble, and I think it's a 1 to 5 is always a crit.
Okay, I'm going to extend a point of luck to re-roll it.
Oh, sure. You should get that plus
reverse it.
Yeah. Okay then. So use a point of luck. Okay then. Right. So you do the spell and you do your knock spell, and it pushes against the door, and the door comes back at you magically, and you sense a very familiar spell, and it's one that you know and you have used several times before.
Is it hold fast?
Yeah, the door appears to be held in place via a hold fast spell.
Gulliver's going to say.
Just to let you know, it's not a weak one. It's definitely not a weak one.
Hasher will nudge Gulliver and say, what is wrong with the door? Why will it not open?
I think it's stuck.
What do you mean stuck? If it's mundane stuff, it should be easy to like open with like a bit of pressure, a bit of skill. You use your magic, it does not open.
I don't want to.
Do you think this door has been closed for a reason?
I don't want to. I don't want to frighten you, Hazra, because I know what you're like. But
I know I don't like your heebie-jeebie.
This door has been magically sealed by a sorcerer more powerful than me, more powerful than we could probably ever imagine.
No, is that possible? Is that possible? A sorcerer more powerful than Gulliver?
Gulliver is the most powerful sorcerer in this room.
You didn't touch it, did you?
No, I did not. I had maybe just to handle a little bit.
You notice that Hazra's other arm is now black.
I'm rubbing my hands on myself like this. But is it like what you did in the door with the temple we went to, the villa we went to?
Has Hazra suddenly discovered a stutter since last time?
He has sadly. He's trying to remember what it was called at the time. Lucius Villa, where you made the door stay closed.
That's right, yeah.
Yes, it came there eventually with the stutter going, what the hell was it? So this door has been sealed on purpose.
Well, it looks like it, Hazra.
So then we have to think, if I make something close so it does not open, there is a reason why it should not open.
Yeah. Answer your Snapchats.
No, it's Tinder. No, it's not. No, do you know what I mean? If I put something in somewhere I don't want something to get out, and make sure the door is closed properly.
I know what you mean, Hazra, but I don't know why it's been closed like that. But
and then this woman has just appeared at this. I don't know, city folk. This house has been apparently empty for years, and then this person appears.
All I know is that Hengist said that he would try to open it. And if Hengist said that he would do it, and he's asked us to do it, then, well, I think the least of the thing that we could do is trying to do it for him.
I agree, my friend, because we must honour our friend's request. I totally agree. Okay.
But I don't like discussing magic with you, Hazra, because you get all upset about it.
I do. I don't like your.
Well, this door has on it, so.
I will go stand up by Bartleby, whose light will shine on me at some point during this day. I'm sure. Maybe.
Okay, so what's the action?
Okay, so I'm going to try to. I'm just bringing up my sorcery.
Not your sorcery.
Of what do you call it? It's my. Do you know when I have to do? So I currently have on my sorcery. I currently have my maximum shaping that I can do is 8.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to try to cast a neutralize magic.
Okay. Got
spell.
You.
Okay, so I'm going to do. So it's going to be touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll be
target.
So that's 0-0 so far, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm going to put all 8 points into magnitude.
Okay.
So I'm going to put 8 points into magnitude, which will give me a magnitude of the spell of 9.
Okay.
So my magnitude is going to be 9 against your intensity.
Yeah.
Which is basically going to be the your invocation skill.
I know what the intensity is. Yeah.
Okay, so the spell that I'm going to be casting is going to be this one coming up now. So magnitude 9. Submit power duration. That's all right. Touch. Targets 1, components modified 1, and I want to take minutes to cast this.
Okay.
So that's the spell that I'm going to cast.
So it'd be a magnitude, and just before, is it? I'm just checking. Is it equal to or greater to? If use goes neutralized, it takes precedence. And neutralize with a magnitude equal or less than its own. Yeah.
Okay. So this is my. So
you're 9, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. So Gulliver basically, he stands there and he starts to summon the globe of water in his hand, and then after about a few minutes of circling it and getting it ready, he almost like pushes it onto the door, and it sort of like splatters on it and goes round the goes around the edge of it, and then there's sort of like almost like a flash of light if it.
It's almost as if the door was horizontal. It hits and almost like drains off to the cracks. Yeah.
So my roll is a 64 out of 149.
Yeah, so your blue magic, your water magic hits the door and sort of like dissipates round, and as you sort of like concentrate on it to actually penetrate and neutralize the spell, you get a very clear feeling that you're not dispelling Kraken magic. This magic is definitely not a Blue Order magic. So remember, even though you can cast Holdfast, everybody, all the 4 orders have different manifestations of it, and your water magic seems to almost like wash away the existing magic that is round there.
Do I get an idea of how powerful it was?
Well, yeah. The other thing that I would like you to do is just roll your Order of the Kraken, please. Your passion. Yeah, you figure your intensity magnitude was 9, wasn't it?
My magnitude was 9, yeah.
Yeah, and so this matches yours, because it says equal or less than, so it's dead on equal, and you wash away what appears to be almost like inky water, very sort of like definitely Order of the Lich's magic, that black, it's almost like tar washing away from the side of the door. And the for Hazra and Bartleby, you sort of like see Gulliver, this water cascade out to it and sort of like goes down, and as it dribbles away, you feel, Gulliver, the door just sort of like a pts, when something has been shut for a long time and all of a sudden is released, and you reach down to the door handle and click it, and you just go and it opens without any resistance at all. Now.
That was powerful magic holding that door shut.
But you, my friend, are more powerful with your finger wiggling. I'm proud to have you with us.
I get a strange feeling about this room. Why would they keep it shut with such powerful magic?
As Hazard's talking, he will hold his jaguar tooth in his hand, and just to feel if any change or any warmth is coming to him.
No,
His villa again when that spirit or shrike was in the room, or someone was in the room. His tooth got warm.
Yeah, there's definitely no sensation from the jaguar's tooth at all.
I don't understand, Bartleby. Perhaps you have anything to tell us about why somebody would see the room like this?
I suppose either they're protecting something.
Sorry, I was just about to say, you're muted.
Your finger
it flashed on my screen already. I think it's either they're protecting something of value or keeping something dangerous in. Just depends on which side the value's on.
Shall we find out where it leads, or shall we just tell the lady we have opened it?
Well, if there's something dangerous down there, we don't want her going down and getting eaten, do we?
But Hengist was just told to open the door, or asked to open the door, should I say?
Perhaps I should share my or use my vision from Amriel to see if there are any threats lying in wait.
I bow to your wisdom, Bartleby.
Well, you'll need to hold the candle for me.
Gulliver sort of like take a step to the side because he knows that Bartleby's going to start waving his hands around.
Yep.
And Hazra will take the candle and just hold it gently.
If I may, this is the prayer I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Here is my roll. Big money.
Not big.
Well,
would I be able to use minutes?
Yeah, you can take minutes of it, and just to let you know, there seems to be some kind of residual magic round the door, round the edges that is slowly fading away. Apart from that, there's no magic on the door at all. That's it.
Would I be able to go open the door crack and peer in?
Yeah. By all means.
While still having special vision on? Yeah,
so you sort of like open the door cracker. Obviously, it's rather dark inside, but there seems to be no glow of magic at all. When you're a little bit closer, you do smell that musty smell of libraries and things that have been locked away. There's a slight smell of decay coming from it. It's not a pleasant smell, and it seems to be quite it seems to be a very old place, maybe as old as the house.
I'll turn around and say, smells like rotting books in there, but I don't see anything that Amriel is telling me is currently a threat.
I'm going to prepare another spell just in case there's any magic protection. But once I'm holding it, I won't be able to do much else. So somebody else is going to have to go through.
No, I understand that. I would lead the way, but I have my spear and have this candle. I'd give the candle back to Bartleby. He needs the candle more than I.
Okay.
I need a light source to see where I'm going.
So it should be all right for Hazard to go first, and Bartleby, if you're behind, That would be enough light to fill. Gulliver, what spell are you preparing?
I want to prepare neutralize magic again.
Okay. So you'll be able to cast it if you wish at a counter spell as a reaction, won't you?
Yes, actually, no, I'm not going to do it. I won't do it because Gulliver knows enough about his magic that he knows that it wouldn't be effective now.
Okay. Cool.
Because I would have to put a point into shaping on range.
Yeah.
Because I can't have it touched, and therefore I would only have 7 points to put into magnitude. So therefore, the best I would be able to do would be 8,
right.
Which would mean that I wouldn't be able to dispel any powerful.
Unless, of course, it's not cast at the biggest magnitude.
Yeah.
Okay then. So let me get this right. Hazra's going in first, then Bartleby, then Gulliver.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you sort of are you opening the door fully or just opening it wide enough to actually get in?
Hazra will just gently push it open. He wants to look down to see where it's going, and he'll keep moving it while he's looking, just so you can see what's there.
Okay, so is the door just open enough for fully open? Okay then. Open. So you the door is fully open, and you sort of all head inside. The first thing that does hit you is that musty smell of old libraries, but there's also a heavy stench of decay in this room. And as you enter the room, it's pretty clear why once you get in. The first thing is the room is quite small. It's only, say, 8 meters by 8 meters. You know, it seems to be almost like a perfect cuboid. The sides of the walls tend to look like stone, and there seems to be what appears to be stone plinths over the top, sort of like bracing it from all the earth up above. It seems to be it's actually packed to the hilt of tables. There's only one chair, tables, bookcases, cages right the way around the wall, and there's the desks are these long tables that seem to be full of books. The bookshelves are full of books. There's books all over the tables. Some of them are open, some of them are piled up one next to another. There's also Bartleby and Gulliver, you see a whole load of paraphernalia to do with magic. Whether or not Bartleby it was to do with holy magic, so like incense and things like that, and metal bowls for burning offerings and things like that. Right the way, Gulliver, up to things like equipment for alchemy, test tubes, conical flasks, things like that. There seems to be a lot of, for want of a modern word, more sort of like chemistry for you as players, but also something quite unusual in this world. And the reason you can hear see the decaying smell is that just round on the wall that is next to the door, there's a whole load of what are easily recognizable as metal cages. They seem to have metal right the way around, bars. You can see they can be open, and they seem to have some kind of wooden platter in the bottom. And on all of them now, there just seems to be the decayed bodies of animals. What animals you can't tell from this place, but anything to do with animal law or survival, Hazra, if you get closer, you might be able to identify what's there. And Bartleby and Gulliver, the other things that you can look at, well, you can all look at, there's books, and there's also the equipment as well.
Does it look like there's any other ways out of this, or can we not see in yet until?
No, it's just a very small room, and the only part of wall that has nothing against it is the door. Everything, so from either side, the cages start, and then it goes straight into shelves, and then along there's even piles of books on the floor. You know, it looks like a disorganized library, but they're quite. Some of these books are quite big and seem to be bound with leather and have writing on them, but you're not too sure what it is until you investigate further.
Let us move in a bit closer. The stench is disturbing me, and Hazra will move towards the cages to see exactly what's in the cages.
Okay then, so Hazra's going over to the cages. What about Bartleby and Gulliver?
Bartleby would like to investigate the books, peruse some on the floor, and then look through the titles on the shelves, see if there's anything that catches his eye of interest.
Okay.
Gulliver will probably go over to the desk. Is there any sort of like parchment laid out on the desk itself?
There's the paraphernalia, but there's also more rolled up bits. Like maps that you've seen in Sylvester's cartography. There's some like that, but there's books on the table as well.
Okay, he's going to go over to the table and start having a rummage and see what he can whether or not he can get a gist of what's on it.
What's what? Okay then. So Hazra, if you make, tell me the roll that you would like to make, and then you can make it. Muted.
I am muted. Thank you. I will do my survival skill.
Okay.
It's lower than what I wanted, but here we go.
It's all right. Everybody could take minutes to make the task easy. Okay, then. So what you notice, there seems to be. You think you're quite familiar with the skeletal and decayed forms of these creatures. They seem to be vermin. They seem to be rabbits, rats, mice, lizards. There's some sort of like glass bottles that's like bell jars that seems to have preserved eyes in them, or frogs that are all bloated and are sort of like against the thing. There's definitely nothing here that's alive, and you can tell from the survival that these have been dead ages. You actually do think the reason they've still got some fur on it, etc., is probably to do with the
door being closed.
Yeah, almost like the sanitary area. Bartleby, books. What would you? Is there any particular skill that you would like to search for? If not, you can just do for me a perception roll. This is where library use comes in.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe use and this might be more of an augment, but I was thinking my lore history skill, looking for things that might suggest what era this is from. Okay then,
so you can use your lore history to get that information. So if your perception roll is complete and you succeed on it, then that's the sort of information that you'll get. Alternatively, you can just roll a perception and just get general information. It's up to you.
I'll go for that first one, looking more for any clues of identification of the era.
So,
wow.
So that's even is 31 augmented or not?
There's no augment. That's my.
So you're just doing for everything then, yeah?
Oh, I didn't know I was going to be able to use the augment. I thought it was a perception and then.
Yes, but that's fine. So you're wanting lore history then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay then. As you sort of start to look at the books, they don't seem to be history books of any description. Some of them have weird symbols on them and in them that you can't possibly read. But many of them seems to be talking about not necessarily history, but more lore monsters. They seem to be, you get the real feeling, the ones that you can read that are not some kind of cryptic code or weird writing. They seem to be talking about mythical creatures that you haven't ever heard of before. There seems to be talk about, things like not necessarily goblins, but creatures that live underwater, monsters that can bite the heads of humans, and also what appears to be something to do with animals from somewhere else that actually come into the world. And you sort of like flick through. Just make a literacy roll for me.
Could use a point of luck.
Yeah, so you can reverse it, and as you sort of like flipping through the pages, you notice terms like chimera, and things like hydra, and demons, and devils, and phase monsters, and these are words that you're not really. Roll your lore monsters for me.
Absolutely. About.
You've heard of these. These are mythical creatures. There's stories of explorers and adventurers encountering them, but this is the first time you've seen them. Such a wealth of knowledge in one place. Let's pass over to Gulliver. So you can use your perception. If you want to augment it with something, then you can use it for specialized knowledge. Otherwise, it's just general knowledge that you'll gather.
I'm interested in the parchments and the books that are lying around. I want to see whether or not I can get some idea of whether or not it was a sort of like a specialized, whether or not he was, or whoever was in here was studying something specific, or whether or not it was just a general study.
Okay then.
I'll use my perception, but I don't know whether or not. I'll wait, because I want to use my literacy, or maybe I don't. Depending on what's on the parchments, maybe my runology.
Okay, cool.
But I'll make my perception roll first. So I got a 34 out of 61 standard.
Okay, so the
34 out of 92, because we're doing 80 minutes.
The actual paraphernalia seems to be more sort of like creating potions and things like that. It doesn't look like they were. It looks more chemical rather than magical now that you're a lot closer to them. You look through some of the scrolls and some of the books, and they seem to be there does seem to be some runes on them. Would you like to make your runology roll now?
Yeah, it's not very good. Oh, but
he brings. Darth has already said in the chat, Gully's on point tonight. You sort of like look over one, and there's one that particularly catches your eye, and you sort of like, you don't know why it did, but as you sort of like try to decipher the runes, it looks like there's quite a basic spell on it. It seems to be almost like teaching the movements and the words, and you soon realize what made you look at it, because it's a spell that you actually know, your rack spell. That's what the actual scroll is, but there's something else that you suddenly become aware of, because down at the bottom of the scroll it's actually signed, and it's actually signed by your former master, because along the bottom it says Flagnac. And that seems to be a perfect place to take our only break. I was going to say first, so I'm not.
Two breaks.
To take off.
Union says 20-minute break every 10 minutes.
So we are going to have a 10-minute break now, so we can go to the bathroom, fill up our coffees, and maybe grab something to eat, because I'm famished. So we will be back. We'll be back in 10 minutes, which will be we'll be back about 8:45. So until then, I'm going to run an advert, but apart from that, we will be AFK. But so go away, get yourself a drink, get yourself something to eat, and hopefully you'll come back to join us after 10 minutes. Until then, have fun, and we will be back soon. You can go, but be back soon.
Don't have fun. Don't have too much fun.
No.
save. Then let me do that. Let me do that. And yes, we are back. So we left the adventurers in a room underground, at the back of a cellar that in a house that belonged to Matilda, somebody who Hengist came to the rescue of last night. Hengist is currently a no-show. We've just been talking and saying we hope he's all right, because we haven't heard anything from him or anything like that, but we thought we would carry on in order to stream. Otherwise it's going to be a few weeks before we stream again, so that's why it says no long chunks. So we had just got to the part, Hazra, you had seen a whole load of animals, dead animals of various areas of the state of decay. Bartleby, you had found a whole load of books talking about mythical creatures, and Gulliver, you found a scroll that had a lot of runes on that you recognized to be the incantation of a rack spell, but more importantly, at the bottom of it there was a signature, and that was from your old master, and it just said Flagnag.
Yeah, I just explained something about Flagnag for the people that are in the stream. Is Flagnag, Gulliver was originally taught bits of sorcery by Master Healy, who had found a travelling journal of a would-be sorcerer, and that was the journals of Flagnag. And Gulliver was actually then sent to Odis to try to find out what had happened to Flagnag, and to increase his sorcery by getting the rest of the journals. And so Flagnag isn't actually his mentor, but it's who his actual mentor, Master Healy, actually learnt his art from. Is there any indication of dates or anything like that on it? I know Bartleby has sort of like a he sort of like keeps track of the calendar, etc.
There's no indication of dates or times, years or anything. I mean, the only thing that you can assume that it's probably, depending when you think that the door was sealed, it was before then, obviously. But there's no dates or anything written anywhere at all.
Okay, Gulliver just wants to look over his shoulder to see what the other two are doing.
Right. Yeah.
And if they're busy doing other things, he wants to put this bit of parchment into the inside of his tunic.
Is the thing that you're trying to do it without being seen?
I don't want them to know that I'm taking it.
Okay, then. So you can take that parchment, you can fold it up and try to secrete it somewhere around your body, just to make you aware. Now, is that technically you are stealing. I just need to make you. Can you see what I mean? Because this building belongs to Matilda, but if you're happy for that, I want to make it obvious to you now, transparent to you now, so it doesn't, if something else happens later on. But if you're happy about that, then that's absolutely fine.
Bartleby isn't looking. He's very engrossed in his books, so you don't have to worry about him getting all uppity.
As long as Gulliver
I was
is...
just looking at Gulliver going, thief! No, it's not.
Yeah.
He's looking at animals.
And so do you still want to secrete it, Gulliver?
Well, it's a difficult thing because, I mean, Gulliver's not the type of person just to steal something. If it was, I mean, he looks at it that it belongs to the previous owner of the house. He's going to wait until he gets a chance to.
You can secrete it without anybody seeing. That's not an issue because both Bartleby and Hazra are busy doing what they were doing.
Is there any other information on it that he's going to continue going through the information on the desk to see whether or not he can find anything else that has Fladnad's signature on it?
Okay, so that's going to take you some time if you want to go through everything that's on the table.
Well, yeah, sort of like the parchments that are sort of like currently open.
Okay, then. So you sort of like start looking at something different. Hazra, you're finished in your area, and Bartleby, you're finished in yours. And there's Gulliver still perusing scrolls and looking through things on the table. And it's while you are doing this that you hear from the doorway something very similar to Amriel Preservers or something, and you see that Matilda is stood in the doorway and sort of like with a second candle looking around, and she's sort of like, she looks quite pale even in the candlelight. And she sort of like looks around quite horrified and disgusted with the animals, but also a look of bewilderment, of puzzlement as she looks round the room and sees you three inside. And she's sort of like, it looks like she's trying to formulate a sentence in her mind. And then she just sort of like comes out where she just says, "What is this?"
It is a most horrific place, my lady. I think we should dispose of all these things because it's something a lady should not see.
She says, she sort of like looks at it and she says, "I think this room was better off when it was closed and shut to the world."
I don't know. You might have some value here with these wonderful books. And so many great topics.
And she sort of like looks at them and she says, "This room, it's not right somehow." And you notice almost like her cheery disposition that she had earlier, her positiveness seems to be quite draining. And she sort of like says, "It brings back strange memories. Where have I seen this before?"
Memories of what? Who used to live here?
And she sort of like looks up at you, Gulliver, and she says, "Let us retire upstairs. I think there is more to this room that meets the eye." And she sort of like steps back away from the doorway with a candle, the candle holder in one way. She sort of like gestures to you, sort of like out of the room and through the cellar.
Gulliver will reluctantly stand up and head out the room.
Bartleby and Hazra going as well?
Yeah, but same level of reluctance.
Hazra will go out, he'll make sure he closes the door properly, and then he will just stand guard over the door because he doesn't think anybody should go in that room.
Yeah, you sort of like move away and she sort of like looks round and sees you stood at the door, and she says, "If you would like to follow me, please."
In which case he will it's her house. He'll bow to her. Yeah.
And she takes you back through the cellar, and the kitchen is just as busy, and you come out of the kitchen and you seem to be walking across the marble sort of like entrance to what appears the doors, double doors open on the other side, and it seems to be some kind of drawing room or something like that, some kind of seated area. As you come through, you notice that a lot of the dust cloths have started to be removed. Could you all make a perception roll for me, please? Gulliver, yes. So Gulliver and Bartleby, as you sort of like walk through the hallway, a certain picture sort of like grabs your attention. It was there beforehand, but it was covered with a dust sheet, and now that it's been removed, it seems to be a picture of a young lady, blonde hair, striking blue eyes, and initially you think it's Matilda. It looks that similar. And there's one more thing that you notice in the picture quite prominently. The girl is probably in her teens, late teens in the picture, has a locket round her neck. It seems to be of a love heart, and it just sort of like is painted on. And as you go through the hallway,
it's not like the locket we found, where Hengist found in the alleyway, right?
No. This one looks a lot better made. The one that you found was quite crude. I think Gulliver mentioned that it looked like it'd been etched out by a nail or something like that. The one on the picture is absolutely it's a picture, but it doesn't look crude.
As we're following Matilda, Gulliver's going to say, when did you move back to Lindo, if I may ask?
And she doesn't pause. She seems to be walking to the drawing room, and she just sort of like answers you, and she says, "But 2 days ago." And you enter the drawing room, and she sort of like gestures to some seats that are still covered with the dust sheets. But she sort of like gestures for you to sit on them. Not to remove the dust sheets. Hazra is just sort of like sit on them, and she comes and joins you. And there's a high back chair, very very good quality, and she sort of like sits down, her legs slightly to one side. You know, she's almost like perched on the end. I'm just pausing in case Gulliver wanted to reply to his question. That was all.
He's just going to say, you mentioned that when you were down in the cellar, that you had some knowledge of.
Oh yes, and her whole persona has changed. She's back to that positive, and she's sort of like, yes, probably just in a dream. You know, one room in a cellar is probably quite like another one. It's amazing what tricks your mind can play on you. Anyway, thank you so much for getting the door open for me. Yes, or is there a need for pavement?
Well, I mean, we were doing it for because Hengist asked us to. I'm sure if there's any payment due, then Hengist will be happy to receive it.
That is why I can send word to Master Hengist, and he will probably tell me how much I owe him. Yes. So, well, does that conclude our business?
I can't think of anything I need to.
I myself, I'm sorry, Gulliver, to interrupt you, sir, but I myself am a little bit concerned about the animals in the cage. They should be put to rest properly.
Oh, she says, don't worry. I have servants for that sort of thing. I'm sure they will be buried in the appropriate manner.
Oh, okay.
Out of character, can I just ask a question about the picture that we just saw? Was the person older or younger than Matilda?
Younger, I thought you said.
Well, yeah. I mean, Matilda is definitely older than the girl that was on the picture.
Okay. Is she wearing a locket? Is Matilda wearing a locket?
You can't actually see. She's got she's properly attired, so she has almost like a high collar neck thing on with her white dress. You know, she's definitely not showing her cleavage. She's far too of a nice lady for that. Probably why Hengist has fallen for her. Done a run it, yeah.
You said it was 2 days ago that you came back here?
Yes. My business brings me back to these parts. Well, shall I say, I am returning home.
I was going to ask, this is a home from your ancestors? Did you ever spend time here?
Well, this was actually, well, I think it was probably my great, maybe another great grandfather that actually owned the premises. I left some, well, should we say we left? Well, he left some decades ago and took trade across the seas and up to the northeast of the continent. Our family grew there, but as my merchant business has continued to grow, I suddenly found out through looking through old papers after that were in a certain chest at the bottom, that I found out that this house belonged to my great, possibly even great grandfather. We share the same name in surname, but it is truly a horrific name that I try to avoid. It doesn't bring very good, shall we say, business. Yes, she says, unfortunately, I am a grime.
Oh, I thought it was going to be something like sheep stealer or something like that.
No, I am. Yes, that is my title.
And it's the same one that your great grandfather or
Oh yes, yes. That is an interesting peculiarity of our family. For decades, the family has only ever had daughters. And quite unusually, well, because you understand, connected to our rather well-established merchant trade, the ladies of the house or ancestors take on the name of the business, the merchant grime business. Yes, and so yes, unfortunately, I am a grime.
Can I ask, because why would we nomads, we do not hold much stock in names, in surnames, we are who we are, but why would grime be such a bad surname?
Because of grime and dirty and muck and such things. I mean, who would want to do business with a grime with all the connotations that it can probably muster up in one's mind? But rest assured, our reputation goes before us.
I do understand, and to be fair, you put your best foot forward, in a sense, and a name is but a name.
Yes. Is there anything else I can do for you, gentlemen?
No, I don't think. I don't think so.
And she sort of like stands up. Okay then, well, thank you so much for dealing with that unfortunate door. I will decide what I do with it, but I think probably I might have it sealed. Yes, could you pass on a message to Hengist for me, please?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Could you say that he has sent some worthy people to deal with the door, and his choice of friends is quite remarkable. Thank you so much. And she sort of like gestures to the door.
Gulliver wants to start heading out, but as we go back through the hallway, he wants to ask her something about the picture that's up on the. So as I almost like as we're walking past her, he wants to sort of like stop, and he wants to go, Is that you in the picture?
And she looks up and goes, oh no. She says, this, well, I suppose that is maybe, well, it's my great grandfather's daughter. She does strike a very similar resemblance to me. Her name, I do believe, was Melissa. She left here the same time as my the same time as the Grime Merchant Company left Lindo and headed off to pastures new. It's quite remarkable that we both still wear, I still wear the family heirloom, the locket. And she sort of like, she doesn't undo anything. She just sort of like pulls it out, and you can see that she has exactly the same locket as in the picture, and she sort of like tucks it back in. She says, yes, she says that the family resemblance is quite marked, isn't it? But
she's very beautiful.
Oh, and she realizes that you've sort of like given her an indirect compliment, and she says, oh, thank you, Master Gulliver. Please don't, you will make me blush.
But just 1 second, my lady. I can't understand why your family would leave this beautiful house like this and go to the north and just leave it here empty for so long.
Well, are you asking me? Because I must say I am rather shocked by your line of inquiry. That might be something quite personal. I see that you're not. I see that you're not of noble birth. As she sort of like looks up and down you.
I'm not familiar with the
yes
the etiquette of the city folk.
Can I just say, if needed, I can recommend a very nice tutor who can probably tutor you in the correct way of addressing ladies within their house.
My apologies. Would this be free?
No. For the best tutors are quite expensive, but I accept your apology quite graciously, and please, yes, learn from it. And she gestures to the door. And she's like, you're now at the door, and she opens it, and sort of like you step outside, and she says, Yes, well, do. Send my best wishes to Master Hengist, and do say that if he ever wants to drop in again, then he is more than welcome, as I'm sure he already realises. Good day to you all. And she steps back in and closes the door.
Hazra will bow to a closed door as he looks away.
As we're starting to walk away from the house, Gulliver's going to say to Bartleby, "What do you reckon to that, Bartleby? That was more than a coincidence, wasn't it?"
I suppose in your daily life it wouldn't be a coincidence, but when you wander the streets of Lindo, all sorts of things happen.
Let me take you by the hand and lead you through the streets of Lindo.
They came back 2 days ago, and that was when Rose was murdered, wasn't it? And didn't she have blonde hair and blue eyes? And
she did.
Had a pendant round her neck in the shape of a heart.
But we found the pendant, that little nail thing that was there. And that lady there does not have the strength to tear apart the woman.
Her name was Rose. Or not Melissa.
No. I know that, but the similarities between the description and what was round the neck, and the similarity that it happened 2 days ago when they came back.
Are you trying to suggest that this lady we just met would be killing other ladies that look like her?
Well, I don't think she's killing people, but I just think it's a bit of a coincidence.
Do you think
blue-eyed
Sewer Jack's gonna climb out of the sewers and climb all the way up the hill and kill her for not going to bed at the appropriate time?
That's why Sewer Jack's going to get you.
He knows the stories.
I do. I hit them often. Get out, Hazard. Get out of my city. Sewer Jack will get you.
I mean, she does fit for the narrative that is commonly told. The Sewer Jack's preferences, I suppose, but
I'm more worried about that whoever killed Rose might be after Matilda as well.
Well, we can't deny that somebody did kill Rose, and that Matilda would fit there.
Right. I now get what you're going for here. Would you like me to keep an eye on the place for tonight?
I don't know. I need to think more of it. I had hoped that. I don't know.
No, Gulliver, I think you're right. I think you're onto something there. I think instead of protecting the house, though, which we may have to do indefinitely until we find whoever's killing, we need to find out who is killing. And I know that when Hengist and I were down and you two were in the alleyway, it was the blacksmith, I think Tom was his name, overlooking the alleyway. He might know a little bit more than the old man.
The crazy man in the alleyway? Yes, I agree. This Tom person you told us about seemed very quick to dismiss.
He was quick to dismiss Hengist.
People
of the lower city don't like to see those with affluence.
Yes, lording over them. I totally understand.
He wasn't even lording over the place. It's just his existence is lording over him.
Settling down there. Yeah.
Perhaps that'd be the next course of action, unless you two have a better idea of where we might figure out who would be killing somewhat attractive ladies.
I mean, we don't have much to go on. All we have is that Rose was a flower girl selling flowers.
Cheer up, Cattin. Buy flour for poor gal.
And that sometime, rather than going home, she ended up in the alley. But I don't know. We don't know whether or not she was actually wearing the pendant, or whether or not the person was just, or whoever murdered her was just trying to, maybe he was trying just to hand it to her, like I don't know, like a piece of jewelry, like to show his affection.
What, and then kill her? Or maybe it's like you have this. Oh, oops! I broke your back. I broke your
Perhaps
neck.
Marigold would know the answer to that. Whether she had the locket. And
Who's
last I saw
that?
Marigold, she was going into the blacksmith with Tom.
No, my
Marigold.
mother.
Yes.
What
I
was
think the best course of action. I think we should keep an eye on the house.
Yes.
Especially during the night. I wouldn't mind knowing whether or not who leaves. Maybe somebody leaves under the cover of darkness. And maybe go and have a word with Marigold to see whether or not Rose was actually seeing anybody.
Okay, so it's
and whether or not she remembers her having a necklace in the shape of a heart. The other thing that we could do, and we could maybe go and see whether or not the old man who was in the alleyway actually could remember anything more of it. We could maybe take him some ale, and if he was in the right frame of mind, I might be able to remember through his eyes what happened that evening. Through magic.
I would hope that you use magic to perform such a crazy miracle.
And also do remember that if he's drunk, then those would be
Drunken memory.
yeah.
But I can keep an eye on the house through the night. But I do believe that maybe Mr. Bartleby should talk to the blacksmith and maybe get some information from him. Because he seemed to be very, don't talk to those people, get them out of here, and took that lady inside the house, not to cause any problems. So, but Gulliver, yes, I don't know. You use your hokey thingy, maybe, but I will keep an eye on the house tonight if need be.
So it's only 10 o'clock in the morning at the moment, so there's quite a way before nightfall. Is the plan then to head towards the slums to try to find Tom and Marigold?
That would be my intention for the
Okay.
next step. If anybody
Yeah,
wants to disagree.
I concur.
Yeah, I think when we go there, though, Gulliver wants to be very much sort of like in the background. He wants to not, sort of like stepped back from Bartleby. He wants to let Bartleby sort of like go in and do the
urchin.
but he wants to be watching the conversation to see whether or not he can tell whether or not the people that Bartleby's talking to is telling the truth.
Right, so you want to use insight of them. Okay, well...
But he's not going to sort of like butt into the conversation. He knows that these people are sort of like not used to... They don't like talking to people outside their social status.
Yeah.
See what?
Well, you sort of like head across Lindo, but way before you get to the slums, way before you even get to the the exit into the slums that you passed through that last day, you notice that there's quite a buzz of activity. Everybody seems to be there seems to be almost like a gathering round the gate into the slums, and there seems to be the guards on it are very sort of like upright, and they've got their spears sort of like held out to one side, almost not crossing or blocking the gate, but giving the impression that it is. And you, as you get closer, you notice there's quite a throng of people. You can choose one of two rolls to do at this point. You can either roll a perception, which will give you some information, or you can roll a streetwise that will give you some other information. You cannot roll both of them. If there's another skill that you would like to roll, then you can ask me about it. So Hazra's rolling perception. Yep.
Gulliver wants to roll streetwise.
Okay. And what's
Barley can also go streetwise.
Okay.
Asking people what's up.
I want
Can you use a point of luck?
Yeah, that's
I thought that was mine.
yeah. Okay then. So
like you did, probably.
So this party is you're sort of like listening into conversations, you're talking to people, you're querying. Bartleby and Gulliver, you're sort of like trying to blend in and talk to sort of like maybe lesser people, and rather than the upper gentry or anything. But you're sort of like asking around, and at the end of the talking, this is what you all get between you. I'm assuming you're going to share it between each other, and so you will know. So yeah. There's several stories going around, but they seem to be one part of the story is always the same, in that you hear over and over again. And basically a girl was returning to the main part of town from the harbour when she was grabbed, and there's stories. She's dead. She was grabbed and she's definitely dead. But then the stories tend to fluctuate in different directions. So what I'm going to give you is all those stories. So some of them say that she was dragged into an alleyway, screaming and kicking. Some people say that she fought off the attacker but was hit by another one. And they all talk about her being butchered or massacred. There's people saying things like, I heard her, she was screaming like a cat, and things like that. Some people are saying, she was such a nice girl, so nice, what will the clothiers do now? And i.e. the tailors. And other people are saying, well, she asked for it, you know, I hate to speak badly of the dead, but if you will show your ankles, then bad things will happen. There's also, so there's this some people saying that she's very nice, a respectable family. Some people say that she was a bit of maybe a kind of a slut, a lady of the night, and she was asking for everything that she got. There seems to be a range of descriptions of the thing that dragged her off into the alleyway. Lots of people have claimed that they saw it, or perhaps more, they know somebody who knew somebody who was there that saw it. You notice that the merchants are not actually saying that they were anywhere near the slum. You know, that wouldn't be good at all. Some of them mention that the person or the thing was bent and hunched, wearing tatters. Others talk about yellow eyes, yellow lidless eyes peering out as they went to the alleyway to try to save the girl. There's talks of hideous smells and decaying body smells and general nastiness. The creature or the person actually, when you sort of like get together, has actually gone from being 4 foot tall, roughly, to about 8 foot tall, but bent, and so there's a huge range. One distraught woman actually claims that it was a beast with several arms and legs. Another one says that it was huge and it was whipping its tentacles around, knocking people left, right and centre. And one person actually says that he saw it, and it had fangs that as it walked hunched down the alleyway, its fangs were so big they scraped along the bottom of the floor. The girl, like I said, was quite young. Interestingly enough, from the description that various people have given you,
blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah, the clothier's daughter was very blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and she. You sort of like inquire what was she doing there. Surely that's what, and apparently she had sent, the clothiers had she had been sent down to the docks to get an invoice, a receipt, a payment from a local merchant. And they says, they obviously hoped she was back by nightfall. Who would have thought something like this could happen in Lindo? And Bartleby, you're almost slightly angry about this, because when Rose was butchered and massacred, nobody wanted to know anything about it. But now that the clothier's daughter has thing, almost like somebody of the merchant trade, then you've never seen so many city guards around, sort of like not really doing anything, just sort of like keeping everybody at bay.
Different standards. It's not okay.
Yeah, completely different standards.
Stood next to Bartleby, Gulliver's going to say, you know about monsters, Bartleby?
Yeah. And it's starting to look like this might be some sort of monster.
Well, but both that drunk man in the alleyway, and I've just heard several people now all refer to this whatever butchered these young girls of having yellow lidless eyes. Have you ever heard of anything like that? Is there a goblin that has yellow lidless eyes, or?
Yes, but this goes with the end part of most of the stories of Sewer Jack. You see his yellow eyes. You're not in bed because you're out and Mother has told you not to. And that's all you see before you're butchered. Or some people change up the story. But you see the yellow eyes before you die. I'm sure there's goblins out there that have glowing eyes, although I haven't found any of those stories yet. It's problematic. It could be a very, very large man, because in the impoverished areas, I've been threatened a few times by brutish men who have monsters.
That smash my hands up.
Well, there were those too. I'm not going to talk about that dark day. Could be that this is mortal, or it could be something evil. This is starting to sound more and more like a childhood nightmare Mother uses to get you in bed on time.
But what's your eyes?
I'm sure the two murdered young girls don't think it's just some made-up nightmare to get young children to bed at night.
I've just put on the map for you, so you're at this gate.
bad shape.
From what they were saying, did we know did we gather from whereabouts it happened? Was it actually down at the docks that she was found?
Yeah, it's somewhere in the dock region. It's not in this was the region you went last time.
That's right.
You went through these gates, and that's why I brought the map up, just to make you aware that it's not the same. And this down here is more merchants, traders, yeah, rather than this area. You wouldn't really go out at night. This is probably dangerous, but it's going to be more low-end thugs, that might nick your purse.
Are the gates actually but are the city guards stopping people going through?
They seem to be engaging with them. There seems to be not a lot of people actually going in through the gate out the city. They seem to be just in the throng round it. There seems to be the odd person that sort of like some kind of like a shop boy or something like that, that's maybe carrying messages maybe through. There's a few people with push carts and things like that with goods on, and they seem to go up to the gate, and the guards sort of like step in front of them, and sort of like there's an exchange of words, and then they either turn the person away or sort of like almost like begrudgingly say, go through, and then some of them seem to have some kind of document with them, something like a piece of paper. You could probably, if you want to get through, then you can use, say, an influence roll to try to make up a story, if that's what you would like to do.
We're going to go off to one side, so we're not just in the in sort of like talking among among the rest of the rest of the crowd. And Gulliver's going to say, sounds like it happened last night. We could really do with maybe getting a look at where it happened, or maybe even the body itself.
True, but how would we get that information without looking like the most suspicious people possible?
This is when you wish it was Shadowrun and you could do a disguise spell. Is there a disguise spell in?
There probably is.
There's like a glamour spell at least.
Yep. We need to find what this is, because two people now, a drunkard and these people around there, so this thing has yellow eyes. It's completely separate things. There's definitely something going on here. We need to find this thing.
Yellow eyes. It's not going to be. I don't know. I've never met any man who has yellow eyes, and I asked Bartleby, and he's never heard of any monster that has yellow eyes.
Mm. So you think these two separate people, or one person and many people, are making this up? Yellow eyes. They say it's a bit of. They could have said cold grey eyes. They could have said blue eyes, but no, they all say yellow eyes. Lidless yellow eyes.
What were those animals in the cages?
They had been dissected and
no, they had natural causes.
But what were they?
But they were vermin. They were what you'd use. I don't know what we use them for.
Well, the rabbits you eat and sell.
Yeah, they were perhaps his lunch. But why would you keep animals in a library?
But I was just wondering whether or not any of them would have yellow lidless eyes.
No, from what I saw, none had. They had decomposed. They were in the process of becoming back to Mother's Earth.
We could try to bluff our way through past the guards to get into the district.
We could, yes. Bartleby, perhaps maybe you, my friend, could say you wish to say a prayer. It's not a lie because you will, because you are you. You will say a prayer of the area at this poor child's demise.
So Bartleby,
maybe,
good idea.
Yeah. Just to cleanse the area of the spirit of this child, because I, for one, would not want this child's spirit to be wandering around out there without being cleansed.
Well, I agree with you there, Hazra, but I gotta confess to you, I've failed the rituals to become skilled in the Church of Amriel for laying spirits to rest.
Well, you know, my friend, they don't know that, do they?
They might. I'm actually very friendly with the guards that keep me safe from helping people. These ones might not.
I think it would be a good idea for the basis of an influence. Well, just to get past them, it seems to be like a valid excuse. Whether or not you actually have to carry out the spell, I'm not too sure whether or not it was suggested just as a way to get past the guards, and then find your own way and maybe, see how it goes. But it would be, I would be prepared. Since it's a reasonable idea, I might be prepared to reduce it from standard to easy because there's some kind of viable excuse now. And of course, Gulliver and Hazra could go because they're carrying things.
Yes, I carry your candles, sir.
Yes.
As always.
As long as we're not directly deceitful, our goal is to lay their spirits to rest. Just
you Bartleby, you are a priest of Amriel, my friend. You need to cleanse the spirit. You need to go there. And not, even if you can't, your presence there will put the spirit to ease.
We can hope. That's what we will attempt to do.
You put my spirit at ease, so that is all that matters. And Gulliver here, is wonderful at just being your rock, your support.
I can imagine Bartleby write it down on his invention notes. Must learn lay to rest. Which is actually, it is, isn't it? It's a theist spell, yeah. To put creatures souls to rest. So
before we approach the gate and we're sort of like there, Gulliver wants to take off his backpack. He wants to put his backpack on the floor, and he wants to take out a piece of his parchment that he has. He has a parchment and some quills. Doesn't want to write anything on the parchment. He wants to almost like fold it up as if it was almost like a letter size. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
And he wants to put it inside his tunic and put his backpack back on.
Okay. So you go. Is the plan then to go ahead and try to get in through past the guards using influence to convince them that you're actually being called upon to lay the girl's body to rest?
Yes.
Okay then. So you walk.
Liar.
It was spirit, not body.
Well, you sort of like approach the guards and they sort of like come up to you, and they, as you get close, they sort of like step out, and he says, "Please state your business."
We come from the Church of Amriel to help put the situation to rest with the murdered one.
And they sort of like mutter to each other as you roll your influence.
Rolling.
And they sort of like look back and say, "All right, but," they said, "stick to the path. Stick to the roads. No going anywhere else. If you go down the path here, turn right, then left, and then it's a second alley on the left."
Right, left, second on the left.
And they sort of like let you through, and as you go through, you hear people from behind saying, "Oh, it's nice that the church is doing something in a time of this. They're normally just trying to nick our collection on Sundays, but now, oh yeah, it's quite nice." And somebody else is saying, "Bloody church, always think they're better than us." And you go, you sort of like walk down, and there seems to be a terrific increase in guards. And as you go past, they don't stop you. It seems as if they recognise that the entrance is guarded, but they sort of like watch you walk past, and you sort of like nod, and they see that you are a theist of Amriel as you walk quite confidently to the area. And just as you get to the alleyway where the scene takes place, you notice there's a couple in tears. Just roll your locale skill, Bartleby. Hazra and nice. Hazra and Gulliver, you can roll it, but you'll be at hard rather than standard. Bartleby just slips on a banana skin.
Woo!
Hazra, you.
No way! Sorry.
You actually, and it's probably.
You actually rolled the wrong skill.
You rolled influence.
Oh, sorry, it's insight. Oh,
Locale.
damn you, cruel thing. Locale, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my worst skill.
Oh, retard.
Yeah, you sort of like look at these two people, but not none of you.
Oh,
Does anybody?
It's like 57% to 19%. Oh, you damn you!
You sort of like look at these, and you're not too sure who they are, but they're sort of like crying, and you sort of like you go up to the guards, and the guards sort of like see that you are a priest, and sort of like you say that you're here to lay the spirit to rest. And as you say that, the couple burst into tears once more, and as you turn into the alleyway, all of you, and Hazra and Gulliver, you're sort of like pretending to be assistants and holding candles for Bartleby to light. Bartleby, just roll your devotion skill for me, please.
I think it's important to realise that Bartleby didn't actually say when he was going to the guards that he was there to lay the spirit to rest. He phrased it so that he wasn't lying in his own mind.
So
I'm going to use a point of luck to re-roll that.
You can take minutes over it. It's not a problem, unless you want to. Unless you want to take seconds over trying to lay the body to rest.
No, I'll do minutes.
Okay, then. So you sort of like start.
Yep, she's dead.
Here's some water. Right, let's go.
I've got a spirit in a jar.
Yeah,
Fine.
and you sort of like stand in the alleyway, and you see that the alleyway is quite similar in crime scene to the one that you saw earlier when Rose was murdered. There's definitely blood everywhere. You can see bits of hair, etc., dotted around the place. And somebody's brought a blanket and laid it over what appears to be an ununiform mound. It looks partly like a human shape, but there seems to be too many things sticking up at odd angles, and you think,
is this round a corner, or is
it's in the alleyway. No,
so it's not inside of the guards and the.
Well, the guards are at the entrance, and you're just sort of like coming into the alleyway, and Bartleby's giving his last rites. But you think it's probably all bumpy, as if body parts have been brought together and a blanket put over all of them, if that makes sense. And you just sort of like see.
Is there any like scratches in the?
Yeah, I was just about to say, can you all roll perception rolls for me, please?
I want to use a point of luck to
reverse it.
I'll just reverse it.
Yeah,
I was thinking of maybe re-rolling it and going for a but then I could fail, so I'll just re-roll it. I'll just reverse it.
So that would be 46, won't it? So that'd be a standard roll, won't it? Bartleby, you don't see anything because you've probably got your eyes closed, giving last rites. Hazra, you succeeded right the way up to formidable, which allows you to see. Gulliver, you're going to see something, and Hazra, you're going to see something. So Gulliver, I'll start with you. There's a lot of similarities. There seems to be arterial spray or splatter on the walls. There definitely seems to be some kind of struggle in the alley, and you can see that there's blood marks when they've obviously brought the bits of the body together and put the blanket over it. You also notice that on the blanket there are sort of like stains, wet blood stains when it's seeped through and sort of like absorbed the blood. There seems to be some kind of scratch marks, maybe claw marks that you mentioned earlier, but definitely scrapes along the wall. Apart from that, if you didn't know better, this could be a very similar scene. There is one more thing that you notice. Hazra, you see all this as well, but I'm going to give you a little bit more information in a second. You do notice that the alleyway ends, and there's definitely blood marks going up over the end wall.
And how tall is it? About the same as the last one?
Yeah. It must be about, say, about 8 feet up. Taller than a man, but probably able to grab hold of it and pull themselves up, like if they were 6 foot. And you can see that they've obviously used their feet to sort of like, because there's blood smears down at the bottom. Hazra, you see all this as well. And but with your formidable roll, and it's only if you got a formidable roll out of interest, is that you notice just off to one side.
It's not a necklace, is it?
Yeah, you see a silver locket. You don't think it's exactly the same as the one that you saw on the picture or the one on Matilda, but it's very similar, probably not as good quality, but you just notice that it's just lying off as if it's been tugged off.
Torn,
The necklace part is broken, and it's just down at one side. If you want to try to collect it, then it would be a stealth roll to get it unseen, if you wish, and that will be against the perception of the guards. Yeah.
I've seen it. I could probably do it, but
I wouldn't want to be it. Sorry.
There will be. Yeah. Hazra will notice the locket.
Decisions.
I know. Sorry. God, no. He wouldn't go for it. It'd be like, God, there's something over in the corner that looks like a locket. Was it the girls?
And a guard sort of like turns round to you and sort of like goes shh like that as Bartleby's praying, and sort of like, and you sort of like gesture to the locket, and a guard sort of like walks in and picks it up quite gingerly. There's quite a bit of blood on it, and lays it over his hand. And he, as Bartleby's finishing off the prayer, they take it to the man and the woman, who, the guard takes it to the man and the woman who are crying outside, and sort of like dangles it in front of them. And the woman just lets out a huge burst of sobbing and everything, and the man sort of like cuddles her to him and slowly takes the necklace off the guard and holds it, and he sort of like puts his head on her head, and you see his shoulders just start to move slightly as he also sobs in the recovery of the necklace. And Bartleby, you say your final words: by the blessing of the light of the moon of Amriel, I consecrate this body, etc., etc., and your ritual is finished. Yeah, what would you like to do next, people?
Well, what I'd like to do is run over that wall, but I'm not gonna follow the footprints.
Follow the yellow brick road. Yeah.
We want to be heading back out of the district.
Okay.
So
yeah. Let me just.
So we'll probably head back to the.
Let me just change notes.
The hairy hobgoblin, where we can discuss what we found out,
and have lunch.
And get lunch.
You callous people, you.
They're terrible, honestly. I sometimes wonder.
I'm having Paul. That's the other white meat.
A man of the cloth and all that.
So you head back to the hairy hobgoblin, your tavern of choice, and you Basil sort of like sees you coming and ushers off a few people from your table, and sort of like sweeps the chairs quickly with his cloth and sort of like gestures to sit down, and he sort of like takes your order, and you sort of like sit down to start discussing. And he the tavern seems to be very busy. It's about lunchtime now, so there's a lot of business. Merchants are in there sort of like trading, drinks is going, and the whole tap room is very, not crowded, but it's busy. And Basil comes over to you and sort of like lays down the wine and the food and the water, and just as he's about to go, he sort of like remembers something, and he comes back and he says, I forgot his voice. I went into butler voice. Oh, Master Bartleby, there's one of those butterflies waiting for you. The blue no, Mr. Gulliver, there's a blue butterfly waiting for you.
Is it a bluebird?
Oh, that's it.
A messenger.
A bluebird. I thought it was a butterfly. Yeah, there's a bluebird waiting for you. Would you like me to send her over?
Oh, yes, please. Basil, before you go though, if I wanted to find out about one of the noble houses in Lindo, whereabouts would I go? Is there
I would probably talk to a noble. We have no liking of such things. Maybe maybe the merchant guild would know.
All right, thank you. Yeah, if you don't mind sending the bluebird over.
Yeah, and he comes back after a few minutes, almost like guiding this young apprentice of your order over. She must look about 8. You notice that her uniform is slightly ill-fitting and baggy, and she has, as always, seems to have a piece of paper with her, that they don't usually have, because it's normally a spoken word. And she sort of like comes over, and Basil says, "Well, spit it out. And the girl sort of like turns to you, Gulliver, and says, I'm sorry, Mr. Gulliver, but your mentor sent me with this letter." And she sort of like hands out a letter that seems to be a piece of paper that's folded, so one top lies over the other, and there's a wax seal with the Order of the Kraken sealed on it, via wax. And she sort of like hands it over and says, is there any... Basil says, "Spit it out, girl. Is there a return message?"
It's fine if you just say that you delivered it successfully, and I'll have a look.
Okay, right. And she sort of like stands for a while.
Do we have to pay them?
Well, you don't have to, but she's 8. Well,
I'll give her a silver piece.
Whoa! Yes.
That's all we need.
Look at money bags over there.
I thought you were going to give her a piece of cheese or something.
Oh my God.
Here's
Take my house. Fine. God.
We'll
Just a message,
I've
Harry.
got too much money anyway.
We'll sell Hengist.
How's his armour?
She sort of like goes, "Have his shield. He has no use for it."
Oh my lord.
That's just nasty.
That really is nasty. I'm disappointed.
I'm
Look
getting
at my disappointed
tired
face.
down here every time that somebody says something about
You're getting what, Si?
I've got the timer for timestamps, so
She sort of like takes the silver piece and almost like skips out of the.
Is it a standard seal on this letter, or
Yeah,
is
it's
it,
exactly.
Can I tell who it's from?
Well, all you know is that it's somebody from your order. It would only be somebody from the order that could seal it like that, right. And it's
but
not
somebody like Danielle Duncan could do it.
Is that your mentor?
That was the people, yeah. But then there's a higher guy up as well.
Yeah, I mean anybody.
Is it?
But basically anybody higher up than you. I mean you could use.
Okay, I'll break the seal and.
Yeah, and there's a note that is signed by your mentor, and you can see her scroll on it. And the message is quite simple. It's almost like in telegram style. And it says, "We need to talk." And then it says, "About the murders." Sorry, deaths. About the deaths. And that's all it says.
And it's signed by Danielle Duncan. And
that will be where we leave it for tonight.
No, it will.
So
2 minutes.
Actually, we go by inwils time, and inwils time it's just clicked over to 2200 hours. So at the beginning of the next adventure, or when you come back next week or the week after, you've got several things to do. Hazra, you're keen to go back to the house and guard it through the night. Gulliver, you have this letter from your mentor, but also the strange scroll that you found in the room. And Bartleby, you're probably going for a lot of confession.
Because you lied.
The white lies will burn my soul.
Okay, which will bring us now next week. I've got open day all day. And then I need to stream ESO because I'm a member of the stream team now, and I have to do it twice a week. So there'll be no adventure next week, but hopefully everybody's available for the week after that. Hopefully Longshanks, I mentioned earlier, we haven't heard from Longshanks. He didn't turn up, so we're all just concerned that he's okay, and hoping that nothing bad has happened, because it's unlike him not to say something like, "Oh, sorry, I couldn't make it tonight," or something like that. So the only reason we started and played without him, because normally we don't do that, is that we literally were all ready to go, sat in Zoom, and then we thought, oh, he's just delayed so he could come, but we haven't heard anything from him at all. So hopefully he's all right, and hopefully he'll get in touch with one of us shortly. We've gone Twitter, Discord, Facebook, everything to see where he is. Okay then, so I hope the players tonight, Chugs and Medivac UK and Mr. Pickles, enjoyed the adventure. Sorry if it was a bit strange at the beginning. I had to try to adjust it, to try to. And I do know that the butler is Hengist's contact. So that's sort of like, that's why I brought that in as well. So that was fine. Thank you.
Well done.
Darth says, good stream, guys.
Thanks, Darth. Thanks for stopping.
You're awesome, Darth.
Yeah. So we will not be here next week, but we should be here the week after. I will be playing ESO next week, but also tomorrow at 2:00. Does anybody else have any other messages or announcements to make?
I do not.
Not for me.
No. Okay then, so I will see you back next week, tomorrow, playing ESO. If you would like to know anything else about the game of Mythras, anything to do with the rules or anything like that, then you can find all the information on my YouTube channel. And if you're interested in the characters that play, then you can nip along to the my webpage, inwils.co.uk. Follow that link and you can find a description of the cast and the players. Also, do remember that if you are a certain member of my Patreon, then you get to see both my adventure notes and my video of a reflection. If not, you can actually buy the adventure notes. They are available for sale on my website.
I'll buy those now.
Not for this adventure.
I bought them.
This is why you know what's happening all the time.
So we will see you all next time. I will, once we close down, I'll run an ad. And then we'll
just so he can get his $3.50.
I know. Well, this might be it. I tell you.
Pay for your haircut.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having liposuction because I'm so fat.
Hey, you said it.
So do come back next time when Hazra meets a very sticky end.
Yeah, again.
At the mouth of 1,000 rats.
The actual idea for next week, the next one we play, is to get Hazra to wear a blonde wig
and a heart-shaped necklace
and wander the streets.
Yeah, you will be.
To be fair, it's not the first time.
You'll be assassin. You will be assassin by bed bugs.
Yellow eyes. Cold wee eyes.
Okay then, so we will catch you all next time. Thanks for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed the adventure, and we'll see you later. Have fun. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.